The gavel's thunder cracked through the silent courtroom, a sound that seemed to echo inside the bones of Emily Carter as she clutched the edge of the wooden bench. Emily said, "This cannot be real. This cannot be happening." Her brother Michael leaned forward, his jaw clenched so tightly that veins stood out in his neck, while his wife Sarah squeezed his arm, whispering, "Stay calm, we can still fight." Their teenage daughter Lily buried her face into her notebook, sketching furiously as if lines could save her world, while Jacob, the loyal family friend, sat rigidly still, eyes dark with quiet calculation. At the far end, Eleanor, the family's influential advisor, adjusted her cufflinks with surgical precision, offering nothing but the faintest smirk. The judge's voice rolled on. "The defendant is found guilty," and the air drained from the room like oxygen robbed from fire. Michael said, "This will destroy us." And Sarah answered, "Not if we hold together." But Emily whispered to herself, "It already has." In the shadows, the memory of Daniel, forever young, flickered like a ghost, his laughter once bright but now haunting silence. The verdict was more than law. It was a knife slicing through blood and trust. The family had entered the fight for justice, but the price was written in loss. Emily walked through the courthouse corridor, her shoes echoing on the marble floor like a drumbeat marking defeat. Michael said, "They made their choice, and it's final." Sarah kept her arm hooked through his, whispering, "We will appeal." Lily trailed behind, her notebook clutched tight, muttering, "They never listen, they never care." Jacob followed in silence, his jaw firm, scanning the hall as if danger lurked in the shadows. Eleanor walked apart, calm and measured, offering a cold remark. "Justice is not about truth. It's about power." Emily stopped, her eyes brimming with tears, saying, "If truth means nothing, then what's left for us?" Daniel's memory flashed through her mind, his smile in sunlight, his hand reaching but never touching. The corridor felt longer than any road, every step a burden, every breath heavier. Their world was breaking, and no one could catch the pieces. The family gathered at the courthouse steps, cameras flashing like storms. Reporters shouted questions, their voices overlapping. Michael said, "No comment," his tone sharp. Sarah leaned close, whispering, "We must not falter here." Emily's face turned toward the crowd, eyes red but voice steady. "The truth will come out." Lily crouched at the bottom step, sketching the chaos instead of answering. Jacob placed himself like a shield, arms folded, eyes scanning the mob. Eleanor raised her chin, giving a calculated smile to the cameras, speaking, "Justice always finds its way." The noise pressed in, suffocating, while Daniel's memory flickered across Emily's vision. A soft hum, a fleeting melody of what once was. The family's grief had become spectacle, their pain broadcast as theater. Inside their car, silence pressed heavier than words. Michael gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. Sarah said softly, "Drive, don't think, just drive." Emily sat in the back, staring out the window, whispering, "I can still hear the gavel." Lily tapped her pencil against the seat, saying, "It's never fair, it never will be." Jacob leaned back, voice calm but firm, "We must prepare for the storm ahead." Eleanor broke the quiet with precision, "You must accept that storms cannot be beaten, only redirected." Michael snapped, "Enough," his voice sharp, but Sarah placed a hand on his arm. Daniel's memory appeared again, reflected faintly in the glass, as though he rode silently with them, reminding them of what they lost. The road stretched long into night, every mile pulling them further from what was once home. Back at the Carter home, shadows filled every corner. Emily stood in the kitchen, staring at an untouched cup of coffee. Michael entered, saying, "We must keep fighting." Sarah replied, "We must keep breathing first." Lily tossed her notebook onto the table, muttering, "They only see us when we bleed." Jacob placed his jacket on the chair, speaking, "We cannot afford weakness now." Eleanor stood by the fireplace, her face bathed in orange glow, stating, "Strength is not optional, it is survival." Emily whispered, "And what about love?" Silence answered her, broken only by the faint hum of Daniel's memory, like a song half forgotten. The house no longer felt like home. It felt like a waiting room for collapse. The Carter home was filled with silence, the kind that carried the weight of unspoken fears. Emily Carter said, "I cannot breathe here anymore," her hands pressed against the kitchen counter. Michael Carter stared at her, answering, "We have no choice but to endure." Sarah Carter leaned against the table, her voice soft but firm. "We cannot let this family dissolve in despair." Lily Carter muttered as she flipped her sketchbook closed, "No one cares what happens to us. They already decided." Jacob Miller stepped forward, calm but with steel in his tone. "We must build a new defense, one that cuts deeper." Eleanor Blake's eyes gleamed in the dim light as she replied, "Defense will not save you, leverage will." Emily Carter's shoulders slumped as she whispered, "Leverage costs more than truth." Daniel Carter's memory returned like a flicker of sunlight in shadow, his face frozen in youth. The home, once sanctuary, now felt like a cage closing tighter with every word exchanged. The family gathered in the living room, heavy curtains drawn tight. Michael Carter said, "We must prepare to fight in the open, not hide in the dark." Emily Carter shook her head, whispering, "Every fight drains what little remains in us." Sarah Carter held her hands together, stating firmly, "If we abandon hope now, we abandon Daniel too." Lily Carter whispered sharply, "Daniel is gone, and no fight will bring him back." Jacob Miller stepped closer, saying, "We can protect his name, and we can still uncover the truth." Eleanor Blake adjusted her posture by the fireplace, declaring, "The truth has already been rewritten. You must write it back with blood or silence." Emily Carter felt her strength falter as she whispered, "We cannot pay with silence, and we cannot pay with blood." Daniel Carter's memory hummed faintly, a melody from the past haunting the present. The room held its breath, as though walls themselves listened. At the dining table scattered with papers, the tension rose. Emily Carter said, "These documents prove nothing if they refuse to see." Michael Carter slammed a fist lightly against the table, muttering, "Then we force them to see." Sarah Carter leaned over the papers, her voice steady, "Evidence is only powerful when it cannot be denied." Lily Carter whispered, "But they can deny everything. They already did." Jacob Miller pointed to a folder, saying, "There is still one path left untested." Eleanor Blake adjusted her glasses calmly. "Paths are illusions unless paved with influence." Emily Carter's voice cracked, "We have no influence left, only fragments." Sarah Carter touched her arm softly, whispering, "Fragments can be rebuilt." Daniel Carter's youthful laughter echoed in Emily's thoughts, as though reminding them of what truth once meant. The table became more than furniture, it was their battlefield. The night air outside pressed cool and sharp as they stepped onto the porch. Emily Carter whispered, "I do not know if I can hold this together." Michael Carter placed his hand on the railing, muttering, "We cannot collapse now." Sarah Carter gazed upward at the night sky, saying, "Even the darkest night cannot last forever." Lily Carter kicked the wooden step with frustration, hissing, "Do not pretend things will change, nothing ever does." Jacob Miller leaned on the post, speaking quietly, "Change comes when it is forced, not when it is begged." Eleanor Blake's voice cut clean through the air. "Change is not given, it is taken, and those unwilling to take will be buried." Emily Carter shivered, whispering, "I am tired of graves." Daniel Carter's memory flickered, his humming like a ghostly echo against the wind. The family stood fractured under the night, their unity as fragile as the cold air. Inside Emily Carter's room, shadows stretched long. She sat on the bed holding an unopened letter, whispering, "I cannot even face his words." Michael Carter appeared at the doorway, saying, "You do not have to do this alone." Sarah Carter's voice floated softly from the hall, "Sometimes silence is more powerful than answers." Lily Carter muttered from the floor, sketching in her notebook, "Sometimes silence is just fear dressed up as wisdom." Jacob Miller crossed his arms against the wall, declaring, "Fear does not build defense, it only builds cages." Eleanor Blake stood at the window, speaking, "Cages can also protect until the storm passes." Emily Carter's tears blurred her sight as she whispered, But storms never pass, they only return. Daniel Carter's face burned in her memory, forever young, forever gone. The room felt too small for all of them, yet too empty for what they had lost. The courthouse archives smelled of dust and old ink, a place where secrets were meant to rot unseen. Emily Carter whispered, "Every page is a lie unless we uncover the truth buried here." Michael Carter replied, "Then we keep digging, until there's nothing left hidden." Sarah Carter placed a hand on the cracked table, saying, "We must be careful. Some truths destroy more than lies." Lily Carter flipped a file open, her pencil tapping, muttering, "They want us lost in endless paper." Jacob Miller leaned over stacks of folders, his voice low, "We need patterns, not scraps." Eleanor Blake, standing near the door, spoke coldly, "Patterns are meaningless without influence." Emily Carter's eyes watered as she held a faded document, whispering, "Daniel's name should not be in this file, yet here it is." Michael Carter's jaw locked tight, saying, "Then this is proof, or it is a trap." Sarah Carter murmured, "Maybe both." Daniel Carter's laughter echoed faintly in Emily's memory, like wind caught in pages. The Carter family sat in their lawyer's office, a cold modern space with walls lined in steel gray. Emily Carter said, "Every time we think we've found light, it turns darker." Michael Carter leaned forward, stating, "We cannot back down now." Sarah Carter placed her hands on the table, whispering, "What price are we willing to pay for this fight?" Lily Carter muttered, "They will never believe us, not when the game is rigged." Jacob Miller's eyes hardened as he replied, "Then we bend the game to break them." Eleanor Blake smiled thinly, saying, "Breaking them will cost more than you imagine." Emily Carter closed her eyes, whispering, "All I want is Daniel's truth to live." Michael Carter said firmly, "Then that is what we fight for." Sarah Carter nodded, but her silence carried the weight of doubt. The air hummed with tension, as though the walls themselves held judgment. At the police station, fluorescent lights buzzed as the family waited in a hard plastic row. Emily Carter whispered, "They treat us like intruders." Michael Carter said, "We are not intruders, we are the ones they fear." Sarah Carter kept her voice low, "Fear makes enemies crueler." Lily Carter scribbled in her notebook, muttering, "I see monsters in their faces already." Jacob Miller leaned back, his arms crossed, stating, "Monsters or men both can bleed." Eleanor Blake smoothed her jacket sleeve, saying, "Blood only stains the weak." Emily Carter flinched, whispering, "Enough of blood." Michael Carter glanced toward the officer's desk, his eyes narrowing. "If they're hiding evidence, we will drag it out." Sarah Carter said, "And if they deny us again?" Emily Carter murmured, "Then we will break anyway." Daniel Carter's memory lingered like smoke, unseen but choking. That night, the Carter dining room was scattered with new files. Emily Carter whispered, "This one shows a timeline that does not match." Michael Carter slammed his fist lightly on the table, saying, "Then it is deliberate tampering." Sarah Carter read the page carefully, murmuring, "Deliberate or careless, both are dangerous." Lily Carter muttered, "They want us confused, drowning in contradictions." Jacob Miller said firmly, "Then we turn contradictions into weapons." Eleanor Blake tilted her head, her tone sharp, "Weapons without allies are wasted." Emily Carter whispered, "Every ally we thought we had is gone." Michael Carter leaned closer, declaring, "Then we stand as our own army." Sarah Carter sighed, whispering, "Armies bleed." Daniel Carter's memory whispered like an echo, a reminder of what was already lost. In the Carter backyard, the night air was still, the sky heavy with clouds. Emily Carter whispered, "I feel Daniel's presence here more than anywhere." Michael Carter said, "He is with us in this fight." Sarah Carter placed her hand on Emily's shoulder, whispering, "He is memory, and memory is strength." Lily Carter muttered as she kicked the grass, "Memory is nothing but a ghost that keeps us chained." Jacob Miller leaned against the fence, saying, "Ghosts can guide us if we listen." Eleanor Blake's voice sliced through the night, "Ghosts cannot fight, only the living can." Emily Carter looked upward, tears glistening, whispering, "Then let me be his living voice." Michael Carter stood taller, saying, "Then we will not falter." Sarah Carter whispered, "We cannot falter." Daniel Carter's memory shimmered faintly, as though the wind carried his presence across the lawn. The old storage room smelled of mildew, its cracked walls holding secrets untouched for decades. Emily Carter whispered, "This file should never exist," as her trembling hands clutched a hidden folder. Michael Carter leaned over her shoulder, muttering, "Daniel's name again, linked to people we never knew." Sarah Carter's voice faltered, "This is not coincidence, this is design." Lily Carter crouched against the wall, sketching the markings on a rusted locker, whispering, "These walls know more than we do." Jacob Miller scanned the room carefully, saying, "This was kept away for a reason." Eleanor Blake stepped forward, her face composed. "Sometimes the truth is hidden because it is poison." Emily Carter gasped, "Poison to who? Us or them?" Michael Carter slammed the folder shut, saying, "To all of us, unless we decide how to use it." Daniel Carter's presence seemed to shimmer in the silence, like a ghost leaning closer, waiting to be heard. The family sat around the dining table, files spread wide like a battlefield map. Emily Carter said, "This proves someone close betrayed us." Michael Carter's jaw tightened, replying, "Then one of us opened the door." Sarah Carter whispered, "That door was opened long before today." Lily Carter muttered bitterly, "I always knew it came from inside." Jacob Miller slammed a hand on the table, saying, "Do not point fingers without proof." Eleanor Blake's lips curled into the faintest smile, replying, "Sometimes proof is not required. Sometimes suspicion is enough to kill trust." Emily Carter whispered, "Then who among us poisoned Daniel's truth?" Michael Carter snapped, "Enough riddles, we need answers, not more shadows." Sarah Carter said softly, "Shadows are all we have left." The silence felt colder than any words, and Daniel Carter's ghostly memory flickered across Emily's vision like a warning. The courthouse steps felt heavier now, the air sharp with suspicion. Emily Carter whispered, "Every glance feels like a dagger." Michael Carter muttered, "They are waiting for us to fall apart." Sarah Carter placed her hand on Emily's shoulder, saying, "We must stand, even if fractured." Lily Carter sat on the steps, sketchbook open, her voice cutting. "They already believe we are guilty of something we never did." Jacob Miller stood guard at the edge, stating, "Belief can be manipulated. That is their weapon." Eleanor Blake's voice sliced through the noise, "Then manipulate them first." Emily Carter looked at her coldly, whispering, "You sound like the enemy we fight." Michael Carter said sharply, "We cannot become what we despise." Sarah Carter whispered, "But we are already changing." Daniel Carter's memory seemed to drift in the crowd, faceless yet undeniable, as if watching the family fracture further. The confrontation erupted in the Carter living room, voices clashing like thunder. Emily Carter shouted, "You knew something and said nothing." Michael Carter slammed his hand on the mantel, declaring, "If anyone betrayed us, it ends here." Sarah Carter's voice wavered, "Secrets kept are wounds that never close." Lily Carter muttered, "And yet everyone here hides something." Jacob Miller stepped forward, voice sharp, "Enough accusations without proof." Eleanor Blake raised her hand calmly, saying, "Proof is already in your hands. You simply fear what it reveals." Emily Carter whispered, "Daniel's blood is on someone here." Michael Carter said through gritted teeth, "Then let us uncover who it is." Sarah Carter whispered, "But will we survive the answer?" The silence was thicker than any storm, and Daniel Carter's ghostly image lingered in the corner, as though waiting for the truth to be spoken aloud. The storm outside raged, rain hammering the windows as the family gathered once more. Emily Carter whispered, "The storm outside feels like the one inside us." Michael Carter stood at the window, saying, "Storms pass but scars remain." Sarah Carter leaned close to the fire, murmuring, "Scars remind us we survived." Lily Carter muttered, "But survival feels like failure when truth is lost." Jacob Miller's voice was steady as he declared, "We are closer now, even if it tears us apart." Eleanor Blake's gaze lingered on the family, her voice sharp, "Closeness means nothing if you cannot face betrayal." Emily Carter's tears slid silently as she whispered, Then tell us who betrayed Daniel. Michael Carter turned slowly, saying, "The truth will not save us, but it may end us." Sarah Carter whispered, "Better ended with truth than living in lies." Daniel Carter's memory shimmered faintly in the lightning flash, his presence undeniable. The courtroom was suffocating, every breath thick with expectation as the family returned for the confrontation. Emily Carter whispered, "This will decide everything," her voice trembling. Michael Carter muttered, "No more half-truths, only the full wound." Sarah Carter touched his arm, saying, "Do not let anger lead where reason must walk." Lily Carter scribbled furiously in her notebook, whispering, "Reason is already dead, only fury remains." Jacob Miller stood tall behind them, his words sharp, "Stand united or fall broken." Eleanor Blake smirked faintly, her voice calm, "Unity is fragile when betrayal is near." Emily Carter felt her knees weaken as she murmured, "Then truth will destroy what little we have left." Michael Carter's eyes narrowed as he declared, "Better destroyed by truth than suffocated by lies." Daniel Carter's memory flickered faintly in the air, his face ghost-like, watching silently as the family's final trial began. The prosecutor's words rang cold, but Emily Carter's whisper cut sharper. "They twist everything." Michael Carter growled, "Then we untwist it before it strangles us." Sarah Carter's calm voice broke through, "Words can be turned back on themselves." Lily Carter hissed, "They don't want words, they want blood." Jacob Miller said firmly, "Then we bleed on our own terms." Eleanor Blake leaned close to Emily, whispering, "Do you have the strength to expose it all?" Emily Carter's hands shook as she said, "Strength or not, I cannot carry silence any longer." Michael Carter's gaze hardened, declaring, "Daniel deserves his truth shouted, not hidden." Sarah Carter whispered, "Then shout and let the storm tear us apart." The room seemed to tighten, every pair of eyes turning like knives. Daniel Carter's memory shimmered above them, as though urging them to break their silence. The cross-examination cracked the courtroom open like glass. Emily Carter stood, her voice shaking. "You knew the evidence was planted." Michael Carter's fists clenched at his sides, whispering, "This is it." Sarah Carter whispered urgently, "Keep your ground, Emily." Lily Carter's notebook slid from her lap as she hissed, "Expose them." Jacob Miller's voice rumbled, "Stay steady, the cracks are forming." Eleanor Blake watched with unreadable calm, her lips curved faintly, saying, "Truth can be a weapon or a coffin." Emily Carter's tears streamed as she shouted, "Daniel was not guilty of your lies." Michael Carter stepped closer, muttering, "Say his name, make them hear it." Sarah Carter whispered with resolve, "Say it for him." Emily Carter's final cry filled the room, and Daniel Carter's ghostly form seemed to shimmer more clearly, his presence undeniable as the walls of silence shook. The judge's gavel struck again, but Emily Carter's voice lingered like thunder. Michael Carter whispered, "The walls are breaking." Sarah Carter pressed her hands together, whispering, "Pray the truth is not buried again." Lily Carter muttered, "Prayers never saved anyone, only screams did." Jacob Miller leaned forward, speaking firmly, "We scream louder until they cannot silence us." Eleanor Blake's tone was sharp as a knife, "But when the screaming ends, who will be left standing?" Emily Carter whispered, "Daniel deserved better than silence, better than betrayal." Michael Carter said, "And today, we give him what he deserves." Sarah Carter murmured, "Even if it costs us all." The storm outside rattled windows, lightning striking, as Daniel Carter's memory glowed brighter, his figure almost alive, urging the family through the breaking point. The climax broke when Emily Carter slammed the folder onto the bench, shouting, "Here lies the proof you buried." Michael Carter's voice roared, "You cannot silence us anymore." Sarah Carter's voice cracked but steady, "This truth will outlive us." Lily Carter's hands shook as she whispered, "Daniel, they will finally hear you." Jacob Miller declared, "This ends tonight, with truth in the open." Eleanor Blake's voice was cold and sharp. "Truth is never enough without power." Emily Carter cried, "Then let power choke on it." Michael Carter's face burned with fury as he shouted, "Justice cannot remain blind forever." Sarah Carter whispered softly, "But sometimes it chooses to be." Lightning cracked above, thunder answering Emily's cry. Daniel Carter's ghostly figure stood clear for a heartbeat, watching his family fight for the last time. The courtroom emptied slowly, leaving the Carter family in silence, shadows stretching across the benches. Emily Carter whispered, "The truth is out, but why does it feel like loss?" Michael Carter muttered, "Because justice does not return the dead." Sarah Carter stood close to him, saying, "Justice is not meant to heal. It is meant to end battles." Lily Carter slammed her notebook shut, whispering, "Then why do I feel like another battle has just begun?" Jacob Miller looked across the room, his voice firm, because enemies do not vanish when words are spoken. Eleanor Blake smoothed her jacket sleeve, coldly adding, "And victory is never free, it leaves scars that linger." Emily Carter's voice cracked as she murmured, "Daniel deserved more than scars and silence." Michael Carter's eyes lowered, whispering, "But scars are all that remain of him." Sarah Carter said gently, "And yet, scars are proof we survived." Daniel Carter's ghost lingered faintly at the back, as if listening. At home, silence filled the living room, as rain pattered against the windows. Emily Carter sat hunched, whispering, "I cannot tell if we won or lost." Michael Carter answered, "We spoke the truth, and that must be enough." Sarah Carter said softly, "Sometimes truth is not victory but survival." Lily Carter muttered, "Then what good is survival if everything is broken?" Jacob Miller leaned against the wall, speaking, "Broken pieces can still cut sharp when used right." Eleanor Blake's eyes glimmered in firelight, saying, "Perhaps brokenness is what makes you strong." Emily Carter's voice broke, "Strength does not bring Daniel back." Michael Carter whispered, "No, but it keeps his name alive." Sarah Carter murmured, "And names are what endure when bodies fall." Daniel Carter's ghostly image flickered in the fire's reflection, a reminder of what had been lost and what remained untouchable. The dining table still held scattered files, though they no longer carried the same urgency. Emily Carter whispered, "These papers once felt like weapons, now they feel like ashes." Michael Carter muttered, "Ashes still burn when touched." Sarah Carter rested her hands on the table, saying, "But we must let them cool." Lily Carter pushed her notebook aside, whispering, "Letting go feels like surrender." Jacob Miller leaned forward, voice steady, "Surrender is only when you stop fighting for memory." Eleanor Blake's sharp tone cut through, "Memory cannot rebuild what is broken. It only haunts." Emily Carter said through tears, "Daniel is already haunting me." Michael Carter's jaw tightened, "And he will haunt us until justice means something real." Sarah Carter whispered, "Justice may never mean what we hope it does." Daniel Carter's presence shimmered faintly over the files, as though bound to them forever. The Carter porch was damp with rain, mist curling around the wooden posts. Emily Carter whispered, "The storm passed, but nothing feels lighter." Michael Carter said, "Storms never cleanse as much as they destroy." Sarah Carter spoke softly, "But destruction makes way for rebuilding." Lily Carter muttered bitterly, "Rebuilding from ruins is still living in ruins." Jacob Miller leaned against the post, his voice strong, "Ruins can still shelter when nothing else remains." Eleanor Blake's gaze was sharp as she replied, "Shelter is weakness if it keeps you from moving forward." Emily Carter's shoulders sagged, whispering, "I am tired of moving, tired of fighting, tired of losing." Michael Carter said firmly, "We must go on because Daniel cannot." Sarah Carter whispered, "We carry him with each step." Daniel Carter's ghost flickered in the mist, like breath lingering in the cold air. The Carter kitchen was quiet, the untouched coffee cup still on the counter, a relic of a day long gone. Emily Carter whispered, "We lost more than we gained." Michael Carter replied, "We gained truth, even if it costs everything." Sarah Carter said softly, "Truth is fragile, but it endures." Lily Carter whispered, "Endures for who, when the world does not care?" Jacob Miller's voice rumbled steady, It endures for us, for Daniel, for memory. Eleanor Blake spoke coolly. Memory is only power if you wield it, not cradle it. Emily Carter's voice broke. I cannot wield pain. I can only survive it. Michael Carter placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering, then survival is enough. Sarah Carter said gently, and survival is how Daniel lives through us. Daniel Carter's ghostly figure shimmered faintly near the coffee cup, a reminder that even silence carried his presence. The Carter home sat in silence, the storm long gone, but its echo clung to the walls. Emily Carter whispered, I hear Daniel everywhere in this house. Michael Carter replied, he is gone, Emily, but his shadow lingers with us. Sarah Carter touched her arm, saying softly, shadows are what the living hold when light is lost. Lily Carter muttered, I do not want shadows, I want him. Jacob Miller leaned on the doorway, his voice firm, the dead cannot return, but the truth you fought for does not die. Eleanor Blake said coldly, truth does not comfort, it isolates. Emily Carter's eyes brimmed with tears, whispering, isolation is all we have left. Michael Carter whispered, no, we still have survival. Sarah Carter murmured, survival is not living. Daniel Carter's ghost shimmered faintly near the stairs, a silent witness to the weight of loss filling the air. The kitchen was dim, the single coffee cup still untouched, a reminder of a life interrupted. Emily Carter whispered, every day feels like waiting for something that will never come. Michael Carter murmured, we wait because we cannot accept the end. Sarah Carter said quietly, acceptance is not surrender, it is survival. Lily Carter muttered bitterly, I do not want survival, I want answers. Jacob Miller's tone was steady. The answers we found may not heal, but they protect Daniel's name. Eleanor Blake said sharply, names mean nothing if power denies them. Emily Carter cried softly, then let the world choke on its power, because Daniel's name will not be erased. Michael Carter nodded, whispering, his name will remain on our lips. Sarah Carter murmured, even if silence is all that follows. Daniel Carter's faint reflection appeared on the coffee's dark surface, hauntingly eternal. The family gathered in the backyard under the moonlight, mist curling across the grass. Emily Carter whispered, this place feels closer to him than any courtroom ever did. Michael Carter said softly, here, there are no lies, only memory. Sarah Carter added, memory is the only ground we have left to stand on. Lily Carter whispered, memory feels like a chain around my neck. Jacob Miller said firmly, chains can also anchor us from falling further. Eleanor Blake's cold tone cut through, anchors keep you still when the world demands movement. Emily Carter whispered, I do not want movement. I want Daniel back. Michael Carter murmured, and yet we only have each other left. Sarah Carter said, then let us not lose each other too. Daniel Carter's ghost shimmered faintly in the moonlight, a silent reminder of bonds unbroken by death. Inside the living room, the fire crackled softly as the family sat together for the first time without words. Emily Carter whispered, we are no longer the same people. Michael Carter said, loss changes the shape of who we are. Sarah Carter replied gently, change is not always destruction, sometimes it is survival. Lily Carter muttered, survival feels hollow when love is gone. Jacob Miller's tone was steady, love does not vanish, it simply changes its form. Eleanor Blake said coldly, love is only strength when it can be used. Emily Carter whispered, then love is the only strength I have left. Michael Carter looked at her whispering, then we cling to it even if broken. Sarah Carter nodded softly, broken love is still love. Daniel Carter's ghostly image flickered near the fire, as if warmed by their words. The night grew quiet as the family sat in the dark, the last embers dying in the fire. Emily Carter whispered, what if justice was never meant for us? Michael Carter replied, then we carry the truth ourselves. Sarah Carter murmured, carried truth is still truth, even if the world denies it. Lily Carter said softly, but denial becomes heavier every day. Jacob Miller's firm voice answered, then we endure, because giving up means Daniel's name fades. Eleanor Blake's cold tone broke the silence. Names fade regardless. Even memory dissolves. Emily Carter looked upward with tears, whispering, "Then let his name be the last thing I ever speak." Michael Carter said sharply, "His name will not die with us." Sarah Carter whispered, "It will echo long after." Daniel Carter's ghost shimmered clearly for a heartbeat, his face solemn, before fading into the dark, leaving silence heavy with truth unanswered.